Roger, thanks for being with us today.
Great to be here.
You've built the world's largest entrepreneur education business. Talk to us about the history of the company and your background.
Yeah, well, I went to Cambridge University in England where I studied architecture. And it was actually while I was there in Cambridge, I started my first business, which was a publishing business. And one thing led to another, and I became an entrepreneur, started businesses, went out to Asia, to Singapore. And it was actually there that in the very early days, this was back in the 1990s when the internet was starting, I realized that there wasn't a lot of education or even mentoring for those that wanted to be entrepreneurial. So I started my own education. We came up with some systems that entrepreneurs could use. And that really led to what today is Genius Group, where we now have 1.4 million entrepreneurs around the world who are using our education system to learn how they can really grow from startup all the way to large successful businesses.
Give us an overview of your product offering and your platform.
Well, one of the biggest things that we noticed was that the traditional education system, already everyone's really talking about how wouldn't it be good if we actually had some extra entrepreneurial skills or financial literacy. And so what we decided to do with Genius Group was to not just create an edtech platform that enables anyone, let's say an adult who's looking to reskill themselves, especially with the crisis times we have right now, and say, well, how do I start a business and create a job instead of get a job? But frankly, even students at school, how can we give them the right tools to grow their business as well? So what we've done is we've built a full curriculum from early learning all the way through university degree and beyond out to adult learning and corporate training, where what we do is we provide all the different tools and curriculum that enable someone to go all the way through to high school diploma, to bachelor's degree, and then into corporate training, using these tools to be able to go out there and be more entrepreneurial.
How's the platform, and you touched on it just a little bit, but how is it different from traditional education systems?
Well, one of the biggest differences, and in fact, there's a report which is from the World Economic Forum, which just came out actually just before the crisis started, and it's where they're talking about something called Education 4.0, where they say that the big skills that we actually need to be teaching today are things like technology skills, things like more interpersonal or leadership skills, really the kind of skills that we're going to need as we're seeing this pretty huge technological unemployment, like as AI, as robotics start taking over more and more jobs. And we've seen this massively clearly this year, where you don't have the same jobs you had before. Then how do you actually create an education system that provides for all that as well? So what we've done is we've built an education system that enables that to happen. We work together with schools, with colleges, but we also have our own campuses. We have resorts in places like Bali or on safari in South Africa, which enable entrepreneurs to actually go and run through retreats and accelerators, the programs that we run online. And I'll say another thing, which is that with EdTech and the way EdTech is growing, you've got large companies like Coursera or like edX who have partnered up with universities to be able to provide degree level programs or certifications on their platforms. But in most cases, they're partnering with other institutions rather than creating their own content. What we see is that there is a real gap for those who want to be learning more specific entrepreneurial skills, where we develop our own curriculum rather than simply working together with other institutions that are delivering their curriculum through us.
Roger, you successfully pivoted your business model to go digital during the coronavirus pandemic. How has this pivot impacted your business?
Well, one of the big parts of what we do is we combine high tech and high touch together. So we have got our EdTech platform, which is all online, and it's where all of our students are able to access our micro schools and our micro degrees that we run online. But then we also have got our teachers, our mentors around the world. So we have several thousand like locally based trainers at all different levels who are really our faculty, and they're the ones that are teaching on the ground. They clearly have not been able to do this in person. And similarly, we have got all of our campuses, we have our resorts and our cafes and our co-working spaces, which also we haven't been able to open in many countries around the world, at least for several months. And so as a result of that, what we've done is all of those different like offline parts of our business, we have maintained. We've really made sure during this time that we haven't laid anyone off, that we've ensured that everyone is still part of the team. But then we've really doubled down on the online side. And as I'm sure you know, the entire online side has been growing pretty dramatically. And so as a result, we've actually been attracting more students rather than less through these times.
And your margins are better online, correct?
Yes, they are. I mean, at the end of the day, everyone who is coming on board, you expect to actually be paying more if you're actually showing up for an actual face-to-face program. But at the same time, you're ending up with like less cost if you're actually operating it online. What we do see, though, is that this isn't a model that, as we go beyond the crisis, will just be going online, because one thing we think is really important, especially for personalized learning, and especially if you're in younger years, there's a whole Zoom fatigue that takes place and has been taking place as well. We want to make sure that we are continually, creating a program which actually allows those who want to access online to do so, but also to have pretty much everywhere around the world that support and that mentorship as you're going through your path.
Makes perfect sense. Now, you recently published an article called "The Rise of Robotics in the Gig Economy Means Entrepreneurship Must Be on the Curriculum." What is the thesis behind this article?
Even before the crisis started, the predictions already was that we'd be getting over 50% of the US population would be in some kind of a second job or a freelancer job. So effectively the gig economy. And so, we're already over a third of the entire population that's doing that. And clearly, as we've had this lockdown and with the crisis, we've had many, many more people that have figured out there's things that they can or should be doing to actually create new incomes. So everyone's really becoming more entrepreneurial already. However, the actual skill sets that you need to be able to do that are really almost the opposite of what it takes to really achieve success in academia. Right? With academia, it's all about making sure you're passing the exam as opposed to discovering your way. You're making sure that you're not cheating by looking at what anyone else is doing, whereas we all know entrepreneurs actually all learn through market research and connecting with each other. And so it's a very, very different skill set that you require, but it is one that's learned. It's one that you can teach. And so one of the most important things is, given that we have got so many people that are going to have to, as I say, create a job as opposed to get a job, the skill sets to do that are very different. There's another part, which is with traditional education. We all know the massive issue with student debt. And that's a real challenge, because it means that if someone cannot get a job after they leave college, well, then what are they going to do? They still have to pay back the debt. Most entrepreneurs, they are learning as they're going, and they're actually getting paid as they're going as well, which means they're actually earning as they're going through their learning journey. And the learning journey doesn't stop. It goes on forever. So that's why for us, it's very, very important that those who become part of our community, that they're seeing their learning as an ongoing journey that continues until the point where they themselves become the mentor.
Who are some of your partners, and what role do they play in your business?
So one of our most important partners are our faculty. So every single person who comes on board and actually supports us, rather than us hiring teachers and then looking for the students to fill their classes, we have got teachers all over the world that are looking for these entrepreneurial skills, or being able to teach more around 21st century leadership skills, how to build teams, and then how to be resourceful and make an impact in the world as well. And so they find us, they join our platform. When they do that, they can actually create their own curriculum, their own degrees on our platform as well. And then all the best rises to the top, because we have a rating system, just like TripAdvisor for finding a hotel or finding a flight to take. You're actually finding the very, very best people that others already are rating high as well. And so trust, brings the best to the top, which means our curriculum is always changing, because the best curriculum is always showing up at the top as well. So our partners, who are our faculty, our teachers, they now, as I mentioned, we have several thousand of them. They're growing by several hundred every single week. And we're having over 1,000 new students joining us every day. So there's this really big momentum that's taking place, where I think there's a real need in the market for this right now. And then we have a second type of partner, who are the schools, the colleges. We're part of our strategy is acquisition. So we are acquiring some schools, and even at the moment where we're acquiring a university, which gives us the accreditations to enable someone to see us as not being something outside of the system, but actually an alternative to a traditional school system.
And that leads me to my next question. Explain your business model. How do you make money?
So we have a combination of a traditional edtech model, where we're taking a percentage of all of the courses that are being delivered on our platform. Not dissimilar to Amazon, where if you actually are on that platform, you have a big choice of things that you can buy, and Amazon will take a percentage of that. We do very similar, but we're doing it now with courses and with resources that enable everyone to connect with each other on our platform. So that's one way that we actually generate income. And then the second way is that we have our full curriculum ourselves, that everyone who comes on board and actually joins that curriculum, then that's 100% net, also part of our business as well. And because we also have got our actual campuses, our actual locations, they all generate income almost the opposite of the way that, let's say, for example, a co-working company like WeWork used to generate their income, where the way that they would do it is actually charge for the desk space and then give the beer for free, right? In our case, we actually give people membership, which is at a very low cost, but then we have the most incredible food, drink, and we actually generate money from all of the consumption of the entrepreneurs when they're on our premises.
Okay. In one of your articles, you quote Elon Musk saying that, quote, AI will overtake humans in less than 5 years. How are you preparing your business for this transformation?
There is this concept called the Singularity that I'm sure many of your viewers know about, which is the point at which artificial intelligence becomes more powerful than the human brain. And that was predicted by people like Ray Kurzweil, who is one of the chief scientists at Google, to be happening by 2040. That has been coming forward faster and faster, to the point where just a few months ago, Elon Musk said that we're going to have superhuman AI by 2025, which is only 5 years away. And when that takes place, I'm sure we're going to start seeing CEOs that are AIs, when we actually get to a point where we have the ability to have that level of intelligence, or more importantly, that level of being able to analyze data, find the right patterns, and being able to actually grow your business, is going to be able to grow massively. We're already using AI. So for example, our entire platform that we've designed actually sits on the Salesforce CRM system. Salesforce has created their own AI called Einstein, which already is super smart at being predictive at what's the next thing someone might want to do. We do the same thing with our AI, where we actually have a personalized pathway where, because we know so much about each of our students, rather than giving them 1,000 courses to choose from, we're saying, hey, here's the next course that you should do. And our AI is called Genie, which is all part of GeniusU, where everyone effectively, we believe, should have a genie in their pocket, which is always able to connect not just them to the best learning, but also to the best mentor that they can be learning from.
One of the companies under your umbrella is called the Entrepreneurs Institute. What's the purpose of that institute?
So Entrepreneurs Institute is one of the companies that we acquired, and it is a company that already has a whole series of different assessment programs that enable an entrepreneur to be able to find very quickly what is the team they need to have and what is the strength that they themselves should be focused at. So one of the biggest challenges is that there is a myth that all entrepreneurs are risk takers, that everyone who starts a business needs to have a certain DNA that they're born with. So one of the tools that I helped to develop within Entrepreneurs Institute, which is called Wealth Dynamics or Talent Dynamics, shows that there are 8 different personality types. Someone like Richard Branson may be a risk taker, but he's very different from someone like a Warren Buffett, who may be more risk adverse and goes through much more analytics before he makes decisions. And there's a total of 8 different entrepreneurial paths that you can take. When you know which one you are, it doesn't just allow you to follow your path, it also allows you to be able to find the right team to complement you as well. So we have got assessments in Entrepreneurs Institute for talents, also for passions. We have one with a passion test, also for purpose. That's actually designed together with United Nations and the 17 global goals. And so when you have anybody, even like a 16-year-old kid who actually goes through and gets self-awareness on what is it they're passionate about, what their purpose really is, and what is the talents that they have, then they can actually have a personalized path towards how to make the most of those talents. So we really talk about student-centered learning, where we really know who the student is, and we use AI to then take them to where they want to be versus whatever habits they might have had in the past. So that really is about predictive learning, and that's one of the companies within our group.
What are some of the key milestones you hope to achieve over the next 6 to 12 months?
One of the big things really is actually to be taking more of our efforts and focusing it on the US, in fact, because one of the things that have happened just accidentally because we started in Singapore is we grew, first of all, through Asia and then to Africa and then to Europe. So we almost kind of went backwards to a point where before we'd even hit, or at around about time we hit about 1 million students, we actually had not that many in the US. Since then, the US has discovered us, and because most of what we do is through word of mouth, we have a very, very low cost of acquisition for students, simply because everyone who hears about this then actually gets other students involved as well. And so as a result, now there's many people in the US that are actually using our programs, but we're going one step further, where we're actually doing acquisitions on some well-known colleges, camps, universities in the US where then those who are in the US can actually come and visit us and be part of the programs we're going to be running on the ground there.
Roger, I want to talk more about your background. You're actually a best-selling author. So talk to us a little more about your background, some of the books that you've written. You're well known in Asia and Singapore. Talk to us about not only yourself, but your management team, your board of directors.
So I had the good fortune when my children were younger to be able to decide where it was that I really wanted them to be brought up. And it was actually Bali that we chose. So Bali, Indonesia is a beautiful island. It's just out of Singapore. So we started, this was in the days, early 2000s, just before the internet had become really good enough in a place like Bali for you to be able to remotely work. But we actually moved out to Bali. And from there, the business grew. And I thought, okay, you know what? Like it's very rare for there to be someone in Bali that becomes a best-selling author on the New York Times bestsellers list. So I got connected to some of the best-selling authors in the US. They shared with me their strategies, what they did to really build a community, build their readership. I followed those paths. And in 2014, my book, which is called The Millionaire Master Plan, which is around how do you take a business from startup to multi-million dollars in size, that did become a New York Times bestselling author. And while I am an author, I do see myself more as a CEO and as a founder of the business we're now growing. And I've been very lucky to surround ourselves, the entire leadership team, with some really strong advisors within our board. So, for example, we have someone called Patrick Grove, who in Singapore and in Malaysia is quite well known because he's taken 4 companies to public listing. He is also very well known for the companies he's been growing. The last one was actually acquired by Tencent just a few months ago. And so very much on the tech side. And then other examples like that, we have got, Anna Gong, who was actually brought out to Singapore by Eduardo Saverin, who was a co-founder of Facebook. And she runs one of the top AI companies out in Singapore right now and advises us on how we're developing AI for the education market right now as well. So that's just 2 examples of the type of people that have come on board. And they're very excited to see this growth of what we're doing now into the US as well.
Roger, what's the essential value proposition for students?
Yeah, I think first of all, with the students, one of the biggest elements when it comes to learning in general is that with most of academic education, well, first of all, it's very much about book knowledge, right? You're actually studying whatever the textbooks are to get you to a certain result or a certain, exam pass. And then there's an end to it, which means that at the end of high school, you're done, or at the end of university, you're done. In our case, it's very different. It's about practical, hands-on learning. So it's much more than just, okay, what are the steps that I need to take myself to the next level of my business, or even to just start creating an income. But it's also, who do I actually need to be around? So that's why we've built this social network where you can connect to all the same people that are going to be in your team or be your partners. And then there's also the aspect of the actual actions that come into what you do in terms of the results you get and how you can share that on with others as well. So we're very much into challenge-based learning, where whenever you're in one of our programs, rather than doing an exam at the end, there's always a competition, and you always like seeing, well, who had the best pitch deck or who had the best results in their business, and everyone's learning from each other as a result of that, which I think is very important. And the second part, there's no end to it. We all know that as we grow older, there's even more that we know we didn't know. And so the ability to know that, you're always going to have that mentor group and that community and peer group that can support you as you get to the next level of your growth, I think is very, very important for all of us in what is very fast changing and uncertain times right now.
Well said. And Roger, what's the essential value proposition for investors?
So one of the most interesting things about the way that we've grown is that we are now a public company in Singapore. We have over 500 investors. They all began as our students. So in many cases, they started from startup and then they built $1 million exit. And then like, right, what do I actually want to invest in? And we've actually grown our business over time in such a way that we effectively have got our entrepreneurs not just co-learning and not just co-creating, they're actually co-investing as well in the growth of what we're doing. So I think right now, education is one of the most exciting areas, which clearly is ripe for disruption, where there's not a single parent that I know that doesn't believe that it's possible to get a better education for better value for money in a way that's more flexible and more relevant for their child or even for themselves than ever before. And when you have a market like that, you have the ability to be able to get great returns at the same time as actually really make a big difference in the world. And I think that we're going to see some amazing education companies in the next 10 years that are either going to be collaborating with the existing system or creating a brand new system. And it's those who actually are at the forefront of that who have a chance to say, not only, can you actually make an income or make a profit, you can also make an impact or make a purpose, really deliver something which is going to help the next generation as well.
What an inspiring story. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks very much. Great to be here, Dave.